Good morning. Down to my seed warehouse this morning because we got a truck here to get unloaded. I don't think there's much in it. A couple of boxes maybe. Boy, that really is bright out there, isn't it? All right, well, we're going to get him unloaded. 2 boxes and a pallet, which I believe is the last of my beans. I'm not 100% sure about that. I'd have to double check in the computer system, but I think I've got all my beans in, and I've got the last 18 bags of corn that I just ordered a week or two ago coming on Tuesday, and then I'll have all my seed in, so that's a good thing. All right, so I thought I would give you a little update about what's going on with our bean planter. I'm really not doing much of the work on it. Phil is, but I can kind of show you what he's been doing. So we're just kind of going through and inspecting all the row units sort of piece by piece here. It looks like he's got this one pretty well wrapped up, but we went through and changed some bearings in some of these closing wheels. There's some bearings in there, and some of them were just getting a little bit rough, so we've changed those. He then went through and inspected the opener blades to make sure that this contact gap was right, just like we did on the corn planter, and got the gauge wheels adjusted correctly. We have a different style of adjustment on these gauge wheels on this planter. We put these they're called the RK Products kit. That it's just a different style. It uses shims to move it in and out instead of that eccentric like on the corn planter. So they were in pretty good shape, but we got those adjusted where he wanted them. And now he's going through and looking at these no-till colders and seeing if there is any problems with the bearings, if they're loose, and checking the grease in the hubs, and just making sure that those are adjusted properly. So that's kind of what we've been doing. We need to go through and clean meters yet. I'm sure we'll get to that. As well as the chains and stuff on here. We replaced all the chains on this planter a year ago, so they won't get done again, but we'll probably take them off and lube them up good, make sure that nothing's, there's no links that are stuck or anything that's worn or froze up. So that's what's going on with the bean planter. Now, what I'm going to work on here is getting the monitors put in the cab of this tractor and updating monitors in some of the other ones as well. So we need a 2630 in the cab here along with a GPS receiver. This tractor gets our Starfire 6000, the newest one. So I'm going to get those mounted on the tractor, and then the software updates that John Deere usually comes out with are out. They came out sometime in March, maybe today, but I looked this morning and they were there. So I'm going to update the software on that display and kind of work on that stuff here. I got to do it on the sprayer as well, and then I've got to get all of our data files from Apex off the computer and load them into the display so that all of our farms, fields, guidance lines, products, equipment, all that stuff will be pre-populated into the displays, and all we have to do is select it once we get into the field. So the display for that tractor is the same one that I was using on the Gator, so we'll have to get that mounted in there. And then the receiver, GPS receiver, is this one right here. It's the Starfire 6000, so we'll go ahead and get those mounted. Well, I got the GPS receiver mounted up there, and I got the display put in the tractor. Since this is the same display that I use to spread that clover seed and map those boundaries, I'm exporting the data off of it onto a jump drive before I stick this jump drive in there and try and do an update, just in case it does something and I lose my data. So that way at least I've got it off the display. And now we'll run our software updates, which looks like it might take a minute. All right, I got that display updated in that tractor, and I'm trying to get data saved to a jump drive. So all of my field names, my guidance lines, all that kind of stuff to load into it. And I decided I better go through and clean up my data just a little bit, make sure I got everything ready to go. I got all the seed varieties loaded in. I've got all the chemicals that we're going to use. Everything's there so that it's all in the list on the display and we don't have to add it in the field. And part of doing that and adding the guidance lines, I wanted to go through and just, I remember there was a couple of them that needed to be renamed or deleted because they're not right, so we'll remake them and that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of going through and doing that now. It's quite tedious. So, for example, this field here, this is like a, 18-acre field. And there is the list of all of my guidance lines. And so, like, I'll click on this one that says North Ends 1. Well, that's that guidance line. That one's probably okay. Main, east side, that's this one. That one's good. Now this one says main west side. Clearly that's wrong. So I've got to delete that one. We've got one that says disc rip here. I'm going to delete that one because we aren't going to use it anymore. I've got one that's just the number 1. Who knows what that's from? So that will get deleted. I've got another one that says main east side of the lane. I don't need 3 of them there, so that one will get deleted. And I've got another one that says north ends. So I'm just cleaning up. I really should only have 2 lines there, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. Okay, so now that I've got those ones cleaned up and we've got our list down to the 2 that we need there, we've also got this AB curves one, and there are 3 lines in there. Now these ones may all be okay. Let's see, we've got east south ends, that's down here, looks okay. West side, that's along this edge, that one looks okay. And west south ends, which is this one. So those ones we're going to call okay. They may or may not be actually accurate with the edge of the field, but at least they're named right and in the right spot. So this field is done, and then we go on to the next one. Now, the reason that it's somewhat important to do this is so that we're all working on the same line. So I will take this file after I get it created, and I will put it into the 2630 that's in the corn planting tractor, the bean planting tractor, the sprayer, and both of our tillage tractors that will get used. And then that display that's in the corn planting tractor will also get put into the combine for wheat harvest and fall harvest. And so it's important to have the same guidance lines in all of them so that we're all working on the same heading, right? So when I go in and plant a field to corn, Dad, when he comes in to spray, needs to follow those rows exactly. And so he needs to have the same guidance lines. If we have 3 of them that all say they're the main line for the field and we pick a different one and they're off by even a fraction of a degree, he'll end up running down the rows in corn, or it just won't work right. And so that's why I'm going through and doing this, and quite honestly, I've spent an hour doing it, and I'm sick of it already, but we got to get it done. So, although I'm about done with what I'm going to do today, and I'm going to take a break and go work on something else and finish it tomorrow. Okay, that's enough of that for today. You guys remember that fertilizer we transferred yesterday into that tank? I want to get a sample of it now that it's all mixed up and blended together, and send it in just to get analysis, just so I know what I'm working with. So I'm going to fill up a water bottle full of that fertilizer somehow. That's what my glove is for. I should probably get a funnel, but yeah, so we're going to fill that up, and then I'll get it to the guys that do our soil test, and they'll send it to the lab and have them test it just to make sure I know what I'm working with. All right, well, I've got my sample. We'll get that sent in, then we'll know what we're dealing with. All right, so now the next thing that I'm going to do this afternoon, and probably the last thing, is you guys may have noticed when I was down here working on my electrical stuff in my seed warehouse, my breaker panel here, I don't have any labels, like none. And it wasn't a problem when all I had was a few door openers and a couple of plugs, lights, but I'm starting to get enough of them now that these need labels. So I brought my fancy label maker, and we're going to figure out what each one of those breakers does and label it so that I know in the future. Well, that one was the easy one. Okay, so here's how I decided to do this. I am numbering the breakers in the panel, and those numbers correspond to the numbers that I'm then putting on the circuits. So like this one is number 6, it's my lights, number 6 breaker. If I push that, the lights go out. So this plug here is circuit number 1, and so on and so forth. Like my overhead doors here, I put the sticker right on the push buttons. So this door is on circuit number 5. That way, whenever I'm working on something and I decide that I need to shut a circuit off, all I have to do is look at the plug, the switch, the button, whatever it is that I want shut off, say what number's on it, come to my breaker panel, find that number, flip the breaker, we're good to go. I think it's a good system. Okay, well, that's done. For the couple of circuits that I have with multiple plugs on it, like the one that we installed last week, that one, it's got a label on it of number 9, and so does this one, because they're on the same circuit. So that's why, yeah. Every box in the shop or in the barn here has a number on it. There's several of them along that wall that are all on the same circuit too. So, okay, well, that's going to do it for me. On the bright side, it's raining. Oh well. They were calling for it. Hopefully we don't get too much, but it is what it is. So Sorry I didn't get a whole lot done today. I don't know what's going on tomorrow either, but hopefully we can do something a little bit more exciting. And I know I got to keep updating those displays and trying to get all the computer stuff ready to go, which is not real exciting. So have a great night, guys. Comments, questions down below. Like and subscribe. You know the drill by this point. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.